Good afternoon. I'm Dan DeRose coming to you again from our digital desk. We want to take a look at a story, a little bit of controversy that is brewing for the Ohio legislature and our lawmakers. It has to do with taxpayer funds being used to potentially go through and support renovations at private religious schools. And where that's a problem is the separation of church and state. Let's say, for example, a Catholic school applies for this pot of money and you're not Catholic. Should your taxpayer money be used to support that school? Where this comes from is the state of Ohio has created what's known as the One-Time Strategic Community Investment Fund. Yes, that's a big name. What it's intended for was for police stations, fire stations, airports, roads, libraries, and schools to be able to apply to this pot of money and get some funds from the state for improvements and infrastructure improvements. But it comes down to this idea is, are private schools, private religious schools applying for this money? And does that violate in the U.S. Constitution, the Ohio Constitution, this idea of separation of church and state? Well, let's have more on that topic. We're going to welcome in the president and CEO, Rachel Lazar. She is the president of the Americans United for Separation of Church and State. Rachel, how are you today? Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me on, Dan.
Rachel, this is an issue that your advocacy group has brought up and has really broadcast so that maybe journalists and everybody starts looking into this. What is the fundamental problem here? Let's get just to the core basic of this problem.
The fundamental problem here is forcing taxpayers to fund a religion that's not their own. And here we have a flagrant violation of America's promise of church-state separation, which is the guarantee of true religious freedom for all of us, because we have the direct flow of tax dollars to the construction and renovation of private religious schools. And everyone should get to choose and have the freedom to choose if, when, and how to engage with religion.
Rachel is, again, the president of AU. It's the Americans United for Separation of Church and State. Rachel, it's your organization, and while we have been trying to contact the Ohio Office of Budget Management to find out just how much money, on their website they talk about more than 600 grant applications that have been filed, where the average price for these applications is about $1 million. Your organization is coming up with $3 million. Where does that number come from, and what is it your understanding of how many schools have been helped at this point?
Yeah, so we've garnered that from reporting. And in fact, we want more information, which is why we have filed an investigation. And we have asked the Office of Budget and Management for more information. But that's what we're seeing in reporting, $3 million for private religious school construction and renovation, and at least 8 schools that have reportedly received the funding, 8 private religious schools that have reportedly received the funding.
Rachel, I want to be devil's advocate, and this is my job as a journalist. Somebody is going to be sitting at home and saying, why are we raising a fuss? This is a school becoming better for our kids.
And I get that, but here's the thing. Church-state separation is part of the fabric of our country. It's an American original, and it protects religious freedom and protects religion, the sanctity of religion, from government interference, because with government funding, strings are attached. Private religious schools have been thriving in this country a long time, and that's a great thing. But public funds should support public schools, which are welcoming of all of us and all of our children, and not private religious schools that only benefit a select few.
It's a valid point. It's right there in our Constitution, both nationally and here in the state of Ohio. Rachel, you used a very strong word. You said that Ohio has obliterated this line that there is between church and state with this idea of one pot of money and that any amount of that going to a private religious school. What is the message you would like to send, whether it's about getting more information? What message would you send to Ohio Governor Mike DeWine and the legislature today?
Well, thank you. I would say if you want to protect true religious freedom and you believe in the benefits of religion in this country and the benefits of all of us having that freedom of conscience, that desire to define our own belief system that even causes people to go to war and die, and that can really divide us, that the way to keep our country together and the way to truly protect religious freedom for all of us is to keep church and state separate. That's not anti-religion. It's pro-religious freedom and pro-religion.
I'm assuming you're asking for this funding to stop and any further applications that are in from private religious schools be denied.
Right. So we're asking for the stopping of state funding from going to these private religious schools, or for the guarantee that none of this funding will fund religious indoctrination or education. And, we're really hopeful that our investigation will help us understand better where this money is going and for what use.
Are you asking for any money that has been dished out to be paid back, brought back? I mean, where do we go from there?
Yes, absolutely. That they should take back that funding. That funding is inappropriate in this country. That is honestly against the American and the Ohio way. That, we used to have such a strong commitment in this country to church-state separation that when John Kennedy ran for president, he had to give his church-state separation bona fides, right? I mean, it used to be way up there, and we understood that it was an American original. We were so proud. And today, unfortunately, there's been a lot of religious extremists who are trying to deny that this promise exists, this promise that, as you say, Dan, exists both in our United States Constitution and in Ohio's Constitution. And Ohio's Constitution also has a protection to keep the funding of education secular as well. And again, this protects private religious schools as much as it ends up protecting public education and taxpayer religious freedom.
Rachel Lazar is the CEO and president of Americans United for the Separation of Church and State. Rachel, we appreciate you bringing this to our attention, and I'm sure we'll be in touch in the future. Thanks for the time today. We truly appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, take care. That's going to wrap it up. Again, this is an issue that's going to be facing lawmakers and the governor. We have been asking for a response from the Ohio Office of Budget Management. I've placed several phone calls, I've put in emails, and have yet to hear a single word back. When we do hear back from the OBM, we will be sure to attach it to the story, which you can find on cleveland19.com. If we have any other breaking news, it'll be right here on our digital platforms. Until then, I'm Dan DeRose with 19 News. Have a good afternoon.
19 News is everywhere. Download our CTV apps and follow us on social media at Cleveland 19 News.